Hello everybody, welcome back to the Talking City podcast. A jubilant pair here as City battered United yesterday at Old Trafford. And a little bit of a disclaimer before we start, there is a leaf blower outside. A person using a leaf blower, I should say. So if you hear some outside noise, we apologise for that one. But the vibe is good here at MEN City headquarters, and I'm joined by your chief Manchester City writer to discuss the demolition job yesterday. Si, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, good. Yeah, just trying to think if we could sort of build the leaf blower into anything, but no, I think just, the leaf blower is there, and we will have to put up with it. Although it's stopped now, so that's nice. Yeah. Or maybe it's just moved away. As City are moving away from United, we got there in the end, but it's terrible. Right,
we did.
Move on.
Where to start really? Now I'm just thinking leaf blower. So City obviously went to Old Trafford yesterday on the back of a 3-1 win. Impressive 3-1 win. We'll get straight into it against Young Boys. I'd have to say, going into the game, I think we were talking beforehand. I was a little bit more. I was thinking to myself, Man United can definitely get something here on the back of last season, where their form wasn't great. City were probably similar position as they were, as they are this season, I should say. And Man United, with the vibes and everything, not talent on the pitch, but were able to get the job done. So I was a little bit more nervy. How were you feeling going into the game? Were you confident?
It was similar to recent years where you think that City should get the job done because of the better team, but you never know because it's a derby, and like last year, obviously United won with a hugely controversial decision, and there were kind of all the stats that came out on Saturday or overnight about City having no penalties at Old Trafford in 30 years and one in the last 53, and but you kind of felt like if City played to their potential, they would win, or close to the potential. And as it turned out, they didn't really need to play anywhere near as well as that because United were so bad, but they got the job done. Very good win. Yeah,
it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, we'll get onto this and we don't want to skip ahead too much, but do you think it was a case of City just being too good for them? Or do you think it was a case of Man United just being absolutely atrocious yesterday?
No, I think you've got to give City the credit, and I think as well, if that game is played last week, I'm not sure City are as good as they were. Speaking to Guardiola after the game, he was like, the Brighton game was so important for us to win. Because, we didn't make a lot of it when they'd lost to Wolves and Arsenal because it's so long to go. And he said they didn't, but if they hadn't beaten Brighton, then it's 3 losses in a row. And he said, doubts would have started to creep in. But they beat Brighton, then the performance against Young Boys was even better. And that, really, really delighted Guardiola. And those 2 wins gave them the platform to put on that performance at Old Trafford, which I don't think they would have done necessarily had it been before those 2 wins. I'm not sure Grealish plays with as much confidence if he's not been man of the match at Young Boys 3 days before. So things came together for City, and you can obviously talk for about 2 weeks about how bad United were, but City were good and earned their 3 goals. Could have had a lot more.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, when you saw Grealish in for Doku, did you agree with it? I personally agreed with it because with Grealish, there just seems to be just that element of control. He draws players in, doesn't he? It can be 2 players, can be 3 players at a time. It feels right now that Doku is part of this City setup. Of course he is, but he still feels like a bit of an individual. He's got a unique talent, hasn't he, in that City side? And Grealish is a little bit more of the mould, and they looked so good offensively, and I think he was a big part of that.
Yeah, and I would have played Grealish even before his performance against Young Boys, but I think his performance against Young Boys helped kind of a lot of people to be more okay with Guardiola picking him instead of Doku, because like you say, Doku is great and has individual brilliance, but City are better and have had great success as a team and a collective, and Grealish kind of helps the team tick when he's playing well, which he hasn't been great at the start of the season, but that is the kind of thing. And I got dogs abuse in midweek for saying that Núñez wasn't great, but it's it was telling that 10 of the 11 starters on Sunday have been at the club for at least a year, and and the weakest player on the City team was the only one that hadn't. So this was a team who have played together before and have experience of winning things and winning big games and knowing what all their teammates are doing, and that kind of organisation and quality was like far too good for United.
I mean, the atmosphere was interesting at Old Trafford, wasn't it, yesterday? Obviously, there was the respect paid to, obviously, Sir Bobby Charlton, and it was, I don't know, it felt a little bit quiet, and then it sort of filtered into the game a little bit, didn't it? It was, I don't know, it didn't feel as frantic.
Yeah, so we're in the press box. We are quite close to the away supporters, so we can always hear them kind of more loudly than you can at other grounds. But it's the quietest I've heard the home ends at United for a long old time. It just felt like they were resigned to losing, which I know, many United fans were. But also they had so little to shout about. There was so little that United did well. I think the biggest cheer in the first half was for like Harry Maguire winning a header against Haaland in the middle of the pitch, and it's like, well done, but he still scored, and then added another in the second half. It was just like they had little to cheer about, but it really felt like it. Again, I don't want to turn this into a United podcast, but it kind of felt like there has been sort of like backing for the manager and the players, even with their wider situation. And then yesterday, they were sort of like, actually, there's nothing to celebrate from the manager and the players today because kind of nobody did the jobs well. And City were just allowed to sort of embarrass them, really. The City supporters were absolutely gleeful. Like, they couldn't believe it. They were watching amazing football and just getting to chant Old Trafford's falling down and whatever else they wanted for 90 minutes. And there wasn't really any kind of response to them on or off the pitch.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we spoke just a little bit about Grealish there previously, and we were talking about the lineup. The synergy between him and Bernardo was really impressive, and even in that first half, when City was dominant in the second half, I feel the second half was just a joy to behold. But the first half, they took a while to get into it a little bit, but it was interesting, wasn't it? Because you'd see Grealish going central, Bernardo was playing so wide left at one point, and they were just interchanging. You feel that relationship between those two was causing Man United all sorts of problems.
Yeah, and that's something you also get with Grealish is like high levels of football intelligence. Like, I know he doesn't come across off the pitch like he's the brightest, but his footballing brain is incredible, and his ability to link up with Bernardo Silva was amazing, like the best player on the pitch. But being on the left, like, took a lot of people by surprise because he's not really played there for City this season at all. He's been central with Rodri deeper or out wide right. So to be on the left probably took United by surprise, and they couldn't cope with Grealish and Silva sort of combining. Especially, United didn't track their men very well anyway, but it was Grealish to Bernardo who crossed for Haaland for that big chance at the end of the first half, and then the same for the second goal. So, it was a fruitful partnership all afternoon, and United never really got a hold of it.
And it was funny because obviously, we'll get into the goals, but even the second goal, you'd seen that pattern of play, hadn't you? Grealish getting the ball, and obviously Bernardo overlapping, crossing that one in, forced Onana into a wonderful save in the first half. But that obviously was the exact same pattern of play for the second goal as well, wasn't it? And it was just constant repetition. You can see why, with Guardiola, why he's so obsessive about movement, can't you? And it was replicated there, really.
Yeah. And obviously it helps if Erling Haaland is unmarked with about 40 football fields of space to head the ball into. But that is the benefits of good players and good coaching.
Yeah, 100%. The penalty. I obviously, the City hat on, 100% a penalty. Rodri was going to get to the ball and knock it in, or force a save out of Onana. I did think to myself, you do see those a lot, week in, week out. Whether or not those challenges should be pulled up is a different conversation, but it's the consistency conversation again, isn't it? And we see these so often in football and they're not given. There's probably many instances, even in that game, that we didn't pick up on. What were your thoughts on the penalty?
I thought when it happened that it's a penalty, and then you watch it on replay and you think, yeah, that's probably a penalty. And then you sort of learn of like Sky going big on it at half-time saying it wasn't a penalty, but also like Højlund should have dived in another situation. So it's, I can see that, yeah, they're not always given, often not given, but I'm not sure that's an excuse for not giving a penalty. I genuinely don't know what the conversation was between the referee and the VAR. And I feel like a lot of people don't know what the conversation was, but have made big claims about what happened anyway. But
well, when I saw it, it was really interesting because I felt it went to VAR. Rodri made a big deal out of it. Grealish was going nuts. Yeah. And it's weird how it works, isn't it? You wonder if they hadn't have gone, if Rodri had kept it under wraps. And
Although I do think that you can often tell by the reaction of the players whether they think it's a penalty, and City don't always react like that. I kind of assumed that Paul Tierney, the ref, hadn't seen it, and so Michael Oliver was saying, "Come and have a look at this," because I think it's a foul. I know on Match of the Day they were talking about it was Michael Oliver thinking that Rodri would have got there, and I'm not sure he would have done.
I don't think he would. He'd have maybe been a half a yard off, but I'm not sure he'd have got that. I don't think he's that quick.
Yeah, but I think Ty tweeted at the time, if you put your arm around an opposition player in the box and stop them getting the ball, you can have zero complaints if they give a penalty against you. It was
also, I felt it in a strange sort of way. He was quite reckless as well because he was almost looking at the free kick.
Yeah.
And Rodri made a really intelligent run, and he thought, "Oh, hold on." And
if you stick your arm up in the box and it hits your hand, you can argue, "Oh, well, they didn't give that last week for Wolves against Sheffield United." But it's like, well, you stuck your arm up in the box. What more do you think can happen to you? So, and especially, I thought there was some goal from United coming out and saying, this was never a penalty after the refereeing call they got last season in this very game. And Guardiola said afterwards, well, it's the first penalty they've had in since 1992 at Old Trafford, so they're probably due one. I can think of several instances from the recent derbies where City should have had a penalty. So, I'm not advocating that things balance themselves out, because I do think it was a penalty, however soft. It is soft, but like I say, if you make that move, then you're asking for something to be given against you.
Was he ever going to miss?
Yeah, maybe. It wasn't a powerfully struck penalty, I don't think. But
I thought he was going to miss it. I don't know why.
Yeah. But he got the corner, and Onana dived the wrong way. So it was. I think he very much enjoyed scoring those goals at Old Trafford.
Yeah, 100%. We'll get into Haaland in the second half of the podcast, everyone. We're going to be speaking about him because apparently he is the flop according to many, many opposition fans. We'll see you in a bit.
Whether it's the legendary Lionesses, grassroots, or expert analysis of the women's leagues, Women's Football News has it all covered. A brand new monthly magazine packed with news, interviews, and expert opinion. Don't miss Women's Football News. Pick up a copy today from participating retailers. Women's football is here to stay, and so are we.
Hello everybody, before we start talking about Haaland, I would like to usher you towards our women's magazine, which is going to be out every single month. It's only £3, and check more out on our website, reachplc.com. Right, Erling Haaland. Mentioned just before we finished the act that it's the first act that there's been a lot of people speaking almost about him having a bit of an off season in comparison to last. Is it sort of 11 goals now he's scored, I think. Still the top scorer in the Premier League. No real competition now Harry Kane's gone as well. I think he's getting back to that pomp, isn't he? Not that he was ever off it, but City fans know, don't they?
Yeah, it's a weird one because he has got 11 goals. He probably could have 20 goals. He has missed a load of big chances. He's not been close to his sharpest. yet, you're perfectly right to say that, yes, he has got more goals than everyone else. He scored 2 on Wednesday, and I asked Pep about it afterwards in the press conference and said, does he feel like he's coming into form more? And he was a bit prickly about it. That was when he said he's got more goals than people who got the plaudits this season. And then I sort of, that was a bit odd. And then I sort of like found out that he'd been asked on one of the broadcast interviews if Haaland's form was a concern. So you're like, oh, maybe that's building up, and he's thinking that everyone's saying Haaland's rubbish, which like nobody is, but it has been notable that he hasn't taken as many chances as he has, or as he did at the start of last season. Because I looked, because like 9 in 9 that he did have, now 11 in 10 league games, is like amazing. It's on course for like a record, to beat his record from last season. But at this stage last season, I think he had like 15 or 16 goals. So he'd made more of an impact last season, and we weren't expected as much because he hadn't done it before. So he is always going up against his own expectations, but he is the best finisher in world football and a phenomenal finisher. And I absolutely loved it about 2 minutes before the end of the game, where City got a free kick 25 yards out, and they all huddled round, and he was like, no, I'm taking it and I'm blasting it at goal. And they were like, no, and Pep was like going spare on the touchline. He was like, no, I'm having this, you can all leave, because I'm taking this free kick. And he smashed it into the wall, and that was that. But also, he could have gone for goal for his hat-trick when he squared Foden in with 10 minutes to go. So he's still a great team player as well as his goals.
Yeah, I wanted to speak about that one. That was arguably the most impressive of the lot, really, just that assist. It was because, like you just said, it proved almost like everyone knew anyway, but it's not just this individual who's wants to score 52 and more per season. He's a team player, and he was a really cute assist as well. He could have bent that in the corner and got his hat-trick, like you were saying, but to get Phil in on the act, and then I know it sounds daft, but the celebration, he just went like that.
Yeah. No, it was great. And as well, the celebrations at the end when the fans were singing, he was going over chanting and punching his arms in the air. Like, he's playing with a smile on his face, and he's like loving being a Manchester City player and scoring goals for City. And, it would be a surprise if he decided to stay forever and end his career at City, having broken the Premier League record, because everyone knows he's got other ambitions. But like, all you can ask for is for him to be as happy and as good as he is being whenever he plays for City. And he looks like someone who is, like I said, absolutely loving it and can't wait for more. And it is remarkable for him to score so many goals when he is passing up those opportunities to score more. I think he's got 3 or 4, maybe 5 assists now this season. So yeah, he's contributing to the team even when he's not scoring. But and he's also learning all the time. Both games this last week, United and Young Boys, him and Pep going off the pitch together, been like deep conversations. And it's because he wants to get better, and Pep wants to make him better. And neither manager nor player can ask for anything better, really.
Do you think it's for the cameras? Pep talking to him on the pitch, that's what Carragher was saying?
No.
It seems very genuine, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, because I wasn't in on the conversation, but it felt like Pep sort of just like said something to him, and then he went off, and sort of a conversation started, and they're both sort of, semi-serious. But also Pep can't help himself either, with like Nathan Redmond all those years ago and whatever. And he wants to say things as soon as he's thought them, because his brain is going at like 4,000 miles an hour. So he has to get out what he wants to say. He's not really one to go in the locker room always afterwards, after a game. He likes to sort of leave that for the players. So it's not like this like view of, everything gets said in the changing room after the match, because he's got so many media commitments to do and everything like that. But he wants the players to enjoy some space away from him, because when he is there, he's intense. So he often, and he went over to every player and had a hug or a chat with them or whatever. So he does he does do a lot of stuff on the pitch.
Yeah, I thought that. I mean, I was listening to the coverage as you naturally do at half time, and it was Carragher was there was no subjectivity about it. It's facts that he's doing it for the cameras. I thought to myself, Pep as a character is so. I need to do it now. I need to put this tactical plan in now. I need to say something now. I'm of the exact same mindset as you. He just has to get it out at that moment when it's fresh in his mind.
And also, I can tell you that he doesn't do it for the cameras because he absolutely hates when people then ask him about it. Because he did it Burnley first game of the season, and everyone noticed it, and the cameras picked up on it, and he got asked in broadcast interview, then another broadcast interview, then another broadcast interview, and by the time he got to his press conference, the first question was about that, and he was basically like, oh my God, we've just won this game 3-0 and all anyone wants to hear about is some like innocuous conversation I had.
Well, it's because everyone thinks he's telling Haaland.
Yeah. And he might have been, but if he was doing it for the cameras, he'd have loved it and would be happy to talk about it. But he absolutely detests when people focus on those kind of things, even though they're really interesting.
Yeah. Was reading your match ratings the other day, and obviously Bernardo, we've spoken about him and Grealish. Bernardo, that little cohesive partnership was excellent. Both of them individually exceptionally good as well. But Rodri, I mean, you run out of things to say, but once again, another performance, and him coming back into the fold, it's just massive, isn't it? It's just massive, and they're doing what they're doing without Kevin De Bruyne, and obviously there's obviously a conversation of who's the most important player at City. They can still create chances for Erling Haaland, as we've spoken about, and they can still put chances away, and obviously Kev is massively important, but Rodri is just, I mean, for me, their game plan, as it always is against City, is to counter-attack. It's to sit in and counter-attack with Rashford, whoever else they've got on the break. But he just negates that, doesn't he? And he was just superb yesterday again.
Yeah, I struggle to see a player who looks kind of more in control of what's going on. He just seems to see everything 3 seconds before it happens and then act accordingly. And when he moves forward, you just kind of... You're never in any doubt that he's not going to move the team forward and the ball forward. So, yeah, I mean, he obviously won the penalty, but there was that kind of dink over the top for Walker that Foden got ahead of that Onana save from, and then, it's his shot for the third goal that Haaland gets the ball from. So he's getting more involved in the attack this season and also doing his job. And also... helped by having John Stones there, because Stones again, any time, Højlund, when he ran clear in the first half, it was Stones getting a touch on the ball that really put him off, and any time United looked like they were sort of getting somewhere, Stones had come back in. So it's fair to say that City's form has improved with these 3 wins, but I think also you see how much Rodri and Stones improved this team.
With the players now who are available, in your opinion, is that City's strongest lineup?
I think it is, yeah, but I think maybe Ake at left back rather than Guardiola, but Guardiola is kind of on an upward trajectory, so will get a lot better. But I think it's also kind of the first time you could say that this season, because Stones has been injured for the season, Rodri's been suspended for a bit, but also players like Grealish really haven't had that spot nailed down. But when you see him play like he did on Sunday or in Switzerland, you're like, yes, he's in the best 11 all the time. And, Alvarez went a bit under the radar, but did kind of a lot of running and a lot of pressing that, he showed how important he still is to the team this season. Yeah, you see that team and you think, yeah, they'll be up there at the end of the season challenging for...
It just feels like the offensive part of the side, it just clicks when, as we were just speaking about the partnerships all over the pitch, Alvarez, like you say, is the workhorse, but can produce... he's nearly got a free kick in the first half. Brilliant from dead ball situations, isn't he? But
yeah, and really good corners as well, which City haven't always been great at, but he's really threatening with corners.
He is, yeah. Edison, what were your thoughts on him?
Tremendous. I was watching it back last night, and if that McTominay shot goes in at the end of the first half, I think it's sort of a very different game. And I actually turned to someone when I was writing just before that, really, and I sort of said, for the sake of writing, this kind of needs City to win it, because it's so annoying when City like absolutely dominate a game and it ends up 1-1 or the other team wins, because you're sort of like, well, yeah, they've lost, but they were like the much better teams, but they've lost, so they must have been bad. But actually, they were very good. But that moment could have been, you know, the crowd finally get involved for the first time. McTominay scores again. United get a lift from what they've done, and then don't feel the need to be as attacking or offensive in the second half, because Ten Hag kind of pushed the dial a bit in the second half, and then that was the wrong thing to do. But had McTominay scored, and also I think before kind of the end of last season, really, McTominay hits that shot against Edison and you're not expecting him to save it. But he's improved so much that side of his game that he's now like a shot stopper as well as a great keeper with his feet, and then he starts the move for the second goal. So at both ends, he was a real difference maker. Which
is huge, really, because like we've said, his distribution has always been epic, as we know. I mean, he could play for centre midfield for most Premier League teams, I think. But it's when City is so dominant and he's not seeing any of the ball whatsoever, and there might be a counter-attack, and maybe there's been criticisms laid at him previously where he's not been as focused and as on the ball. But like you quite rightly said, this season, there's been a real upgrade in his focus, I felt.
Yeah, and I think there's just been a feeling in previous seasons that he's not going to save it, and people haven't really minded that most of the time because he is so good with his feet. But now there is a feeling that he will save most things that come his way, and that is, you know, like you say, a real upgrade even with the same player.
How are you feeling about City at the minute? Are you thinking, obviously they sit 2 points behind Spurs, they're kicking into gear a little bit now, but they've not really been out of gear, have they, since last season? It's been weird. It's a bit because, you know, the loss against Arsenal, obviously 3 losses in 4, but are you feeling a little bit more confident now that City are going to really start doing what City do?
I think so. But like I say, I think, you know, the performances have been a bit patchy, but they've been trying to integrate new players. And I think Sunday showed the benefit of a team, you know, that knows exactly what it's doing. And that team, if it can stay together for kind of the business end of the season, will go very far along the way towards winning the Premier League and the Champions League again.
Well, Kovacic, Nunes, Doku is going to take time, isn't it?
Yeah.
They're replacing huge players, aren't they?
Yeah, and there's every chance that any of those players could work their way into the best 11 by, you know, the second half of the season or anything like that. But I think when you look at that team yesterday, you think if those players are fit, play them for every big game and you'll win most of them.
I agree. Well, guys, we're going to leave it there. Si, thanks so much for joining us, mate. Really appreciate it. This has been the Talking City podcast. I'm happy to be back and seeing your face. Happy I'm back, Si. We're going to be back on Friday with another podcast, previewing the Bournemouth game at the weekend. So really appreciate you sticking by. Make sure you check out our brand new women's magazine, of course, that we were talking to you about a little bit earlier. £3. Check out more, reachplc.com. Yeah, guys, we're going to leave it there. Make sure you check out our YouTube channel, like, comment and subscribe. Leave us a 5-star rating on all of your favourite podcast providers. And we'll see you in a bit. Cheers.